Welcome to Eye of the Storm. Never forget that we are the storm because we're standing together organizing a revolutionary movement. I have a very special guest with me today, Hope Beryl-Green. Welcome, Hope.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so excited to share your story and just everything that you have to say. But before we get into the mix, will you bring our Heavenly Father in with us, please?
Absolutely. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story, not because of me, Lord, but because of all of the children. Lord, there's so many children, and it breaks your heart that they're being trafficked, they're being abused, they're being tortured. There's so much evil that's happening to them. I ask that you would break our hearts for what breaks yours, Lord, that we would take a stand, that we would stand up for them, Lord, that we would speak truth for them, and we would provide an opportunity for them to be freed, Lord. I ask for those that have a hard time hearing the truth about this, Lord, that you would give them grace to be able to hear the truth and to be able to take a step that God tells them to take. Each person has a role to play, and I ask that you would make them very aware of what that is, give them the strength to do that. And for every woman, boy, child, man that's being trafficked right now, that's being enslaved and abused, Lord, I just ask that you would just intercede for them, Lord, and provide a way out for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
It's so important. um, okay, so Hope is a survivor of sex slavery. She was born into sex slavery until she was rescued at the age of 30. She is a passionate abolitionist exposing the deep darkness of the Illuminati, sex slavery, and mind control. With a bachelorate degree in psychology, graduate experience in human relations, and theology degree with ordination, Hope is dedicated to educate and empower all she meets to fight for justice and the end of slavery. She currently speaks at colleges, airports, TV, radio, podcasts, Supreme Court, church groups, and nonprofit organizations. Hope gives people insight on how to recognize sex slavery and what steps to take to help the victims. She also reveals the hidden agendas of the Illuminati and their hold on this country. The knowledge she shares radically changes lives and provides freedom to the captive. Hope currently resides in Nashville, Tennessee with her husband. She is the founder of a nonprofit 501c3, There is Freedom Ministries. Her book, To Tell the Truth, can be found on Amazon. To learn more, visit hopeberyl-green.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I hate talking about this stuff, but I'm so glad you're here because it's so important for us too. So please just tell me your story of kind of just from the beginning and what's led you here to today.
Absolutely. I'm kind of emotional just even thinking about it right now. I just got finished watching Tim Tebow on Sean Ryan's podcast. And, probably the very last 45 minutes, it talks about the travesty of sex trafficking. Slavery in this country is bigger than it's ever been throughout all of history. And that's in the US. Like, it's not just overseas. It's like in our backyard, like it's next door neighbor kind of stuff that's going on constantly. But for me, I was born into trafficking. There really is not a time that I don't remember being trafficked, being raped, being sold for sex. It really, truly is slavery. I think sometimes the trafficking word can kind of numb it down a little bit, but really when it comes down to it, it's slavery. They determine when you go to the bathroom, if you eat, where you go, what you do, who you're around, everything. You don't have your own choice, no choices at all. But so I was born into it. It was like a they would have looked like a normal middle class family in Kentucky. If you looked at them, you would just thought they, they were a coach and a deacon in the a small Baptist church, and people, normal people, like the perfect family. But
Mhm.
behind closed doors, it was completely 100% different than that. They were trafficking me, selling me for sex within that church, the Baptist church that we were going to. I just thought everybody went through that.
Okay.
I didn't know anything else because that's what I had experienced. Really from the time I was born. There's a lot deeper, darker motivation um, behind it. My mom died when I was born, and they really took over, um, you know, everything about me. And they had a lot of roots in Germany, a lot of military roots, and it was a lot of mind control. At the very root, like 0 to 5 years old, there was a lot of torture, a lot of rape and trafficking. And it happens a whole lot more than what people realize. It's demonic. It's based
Yes.
in satanic ritual. It's based in really hating God. Uh, and what better way to hurt God than to hurt his children? So
Sure.
that's really their goal. And they really give themselves over to evil, give themselves over
Mhm.
to Satan. I truly believe that anybody, anywhere, no matter what they've done, can choose Jesus and be
Yes.
saved. But there comes a point where, in the word it says he gives them over to a reprobate mind.
That's right.
And people that do this in the Illuminati and MK Ultra, they really truly have given themselves over, like fully
Mhm.
embodied by evil, by Satan, uh, willfully, not because they
Right.
were hurt or because they were abused or any of that, just willfully. They know exactly what they're doing it, and they really know the Bible more than most
Yes.
Christians do. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
do.
Yeah,
They're playing it
they
out. I mean,
yeah, absolutely, they do. They want to know the Bible so that they can twist the Bible, so
mhm.
that they can do rituals and rape while reading scripture, or dress up like Jesus and rape people, anything to try to pervert who God is, what
Mhm.
He's about, His Word, just complete and total perversion constantly of who He is and what He's all about. Um, at around age 5, my main traffickers ended up really giving ownership over to me. Like they signed documents, give ownership over to Epstein of me. Um, of course, I continued to be trafficked by my main traffickers, and went, back to Kentucky with them because they had to, continue to hold up this image in order for them to get away with what they were doing. But I would be taken regularly to Epstein Island. I don't know. Every time for me, like I had an idea of the vicinity of where I was, but they would blindfold me. I wouldn't have exact details of where I was going. It was too much of a risk for them to give me an opportunity for that to even come back, in my memory, or that I would have any of those details because it's extremely secretive.
Mhm.
But the narrative that the mainstream media is sharing, and we all know they lie, um, it's not any less demonic or evil or horrible or painful or abusive, is that, it was mainly 14, 15, 16-year olds, 18-year olds, trafficking. But underneath all of that, there was a lot of other things that were going on. There's a lot of underground tunnels under Epstein Island. I was taken underground. They didn't want any of that to be above ground because it really posed too much of a risk for them. Um,
Right.
so Epstein would, me and other children were there, and I was 5 years old. It began when I was 5 years old. He would put us in like stalls. They were like horse stalls in a way, and put chains around our neck and chain us to the stalls. And we really had to perform like a product, like a um, something they had created to show off to other people, how we perform sexually, or how we, like for me, what they did was, my programming was more pink perfect princess, like the Shirley Temple kind of looking.
Hmm.
Um, and they would dress me up like that, and I would have to perform sexually with Epstein or the people that he would bring around. And it was different for each child and what they was kind of their product or what they were supposed to act out. But these were very influential people. As a child, I didn't know specifically who they were. Um, a lot of them looked, like Middle East, like princes or royalty, people that were very rich, and people in Hollywood. Now that I see, uh, after getting free, a lot of very wealthy and influential people that he would take us around to. He also had hallways where there were glass where they could actually view each child through the glass and determine if they wanted to purchase or not. Um, so, this was continual. I didn't, I'm sure that there were children that stayed there all the time. For me, I was taken out of there, and more of my purpose was around Kentucky and around churches and things like that, because they're continually, Epstein was all involved. It was very governmental, and it was very Illuminati based, MK Ultra based. He was into all of that. So what's been communicated in the mainstream is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what was really truly going on under the surface.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of people, it's hard to fathom that, you know, these people in power could do these type of things. I think that's why a lot of times, we sex trafficking is talked about, but the root or the depth of why it's done is not talked about a lot of times, which is really needs the light needs to shine there. And I feel
Yeah.
like the Lord really wants that. I wrote a book about my story, and it really goes into the details of the programming, of the torture, of really seeing people killed, and even worse than that. But it's hard for people to believe or understand that that could be going on. But people that hate Satan, like it talks in the Bible about how they continually were thinking up new evil to do. These
Mhm.
people, they know the brain, they know how the brain works. I mean, Epstein was there were babies that had been aborted or that were aborted by them, and they were in like a cryogenic kind of a machine that they were doing experiments on. Um, that was very done underground, of course. He had a lot of connections. Stephen Hawkins was there, and it was a lot of evil was done through him. Um, or his what was actually saying, kind of communicating, this is what I want you to do to this child. um, so it's very deep and dark. The Lord told me to really expose all of the program and not to leave anything out in my book. And I and everybody says, and I would always say, like, this is a very hard read. And it is a hard
Right.
read. But uh, Jesus really, he gave me a different perspective about it. He's like, hope. So if you knew that you were going to be in a car accident, like you knew that was coming up, would you want to put your seatbelt on? And it's like, yeah, of course I would, you know. Um, so it's like the belt of truth, you know, it holds
Mhm.
all the other armor. He wants us to be equipped with the truth and people to know the truth, not only so they can, you know, protect themselves and stand strong in the warfare and all the evil that's being done, but also so that they can stand strong for these children that are continuing to get hurt. I mean, Biden was involved. For me, I was trafficked by Biden. It was very strategic, and I knew ahead of time that when he took presidency, he would begin to traffic children, and it would go through the border. Those children, it was strategically planned ahead of time for them to be trafficked, for them to
Right.
disappear, for them to be used in rituals. Um, you know, they just didn't disappear for no reason. They knew exactly what they were doing. It wasn't a coincidence. It was done fully knowing what they were doing. They make tons of money off of children. Um, you know, people say, well, now it is sex trafficking because with drugs, you can sell it once, but with a child, you sell them over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then also it's for power. I mean, I know recently I was on a podcast, and somebody got on there and they were like, adrenochrome is not real. And I'm like, okay, well, I experienced that, and thousands of others have experienced that. So you can deceive yourself into believing that that's not
Right.
true, but you have thousands of people testifying their story that that is happening, and it's for
Yes.
them to demonically get power to cover up the evil that they do, to put people in trances so they don't see through the evil, to numb down um, you know, the ability to see through the demonic shields that they have up, you know, to
Right.
keep them from being exposed. So it is very real. I have seen high up leaders in the government um, literally, and this is hard to hear, but it's reality, literally cut the faces off of children and put them on other children. The horror and the torture I mean, for me, it was more horror and torture for me to see these children going through this because I couldn't help them. There wasn't anything that I could do to help them. It was beyond, really beyond torture, because it's they're hurting Jesus's heart, because you have that heart of wanting to protect and wanting to help and wanting to uh, reduce any of the pain and suffering, but there's nothing you can do. You have no way out. Absolutely no way out. So I don't know. Is there anything specific that you'd like me to go
I know,
into?
sorry, I'm just sitting here trying to contain myself. Um, I just want you to keep going. I just want you to keep sharing. I mean, I'm just like, I feel like, like have this be your show. Like just talk about whatever you think is important. I mean, go into the Illuminati, the MK Ultra, because I feel like that's happening. Like it happens in those scenarios, but it's happening on a massive scale, just in different ways, I believe. Like just keeping people in this mind control. I mean, because they use fear and different things like that. But I believe they use the MK Ultra on a massive scale on the populace. It's just more intense and situations like what you're referring to. But if you
Abs-
could, elaborate
yeah,
on that, please. Yeah.
absolutely. You're right. It's very, very important for people to understand that portion. You know, the Illuminati has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's people that hate God, and they really want to be God. I mean, they want to be the epitome of God. That's what they want, and they choose Satan to give them power. But um, for me, there was a lot of rituals, governmental rituals that were done, like under Washington. Um, there were presidents there, and there were very high up, like Adam Schiff. He's very involved with Epstein, and it was very involved with all of that. Um, there's some people there that I'd be afraid for my life if I, even were to speak about it. Um, but but when it came to the corporate rituals, like the ones in Washington, or the ones that would be like, say, in New York, close to the Statue of Liberty and things like that, they literally wanted to be able to control the minds of children so that they could carry out their agenda without really um, consciously even knowing what they were doing. Um, I mean, a lot of people, they've seen like Born Identity, and how that was the movie. Those aren't just
Mhm.
movies. Those are
No.
set up. They're set up specifically, detailing the things that they do in these rituals, and the things that they do, so that it will desensitize the public into thinking, when we do come forward and share the truth of what we truly went through, that there will be a mass rejection
Mhm.
of that truth, because people just they say, well, that was in a movie, you got that from
Right.
a movie. How did I
Right.
get that from a movie when I already had those memories? And then I see the movie, and I'm like, I've been through all of those things.
Right.
Like, I didn't make up. I mean, those were true things that I went through. Um, you know, they Illuminati. They're specifically set up in each city, in each state. Um, like I said, I was put in. There was a small town. It was like a German named town in Kentucky, that truly there was a lot of root level programming that was going on where they could really do the torture, the foundational level torture from 0 to 5. And then you would play out the role that they had told you to do. And the way they were able to do that is they they know how the mind works. They use electrocution. They use, filleting people, burning people alive, gas chambers, really anything that you can think of that would be so traumatizing and so devastating that they could split off your mind intentionally. They intentionally want to do that, to
Right.
have different parts of your mind so that they can have different agendas accomplished. Now, their whole goal is really to infiltrate all of the United States. They want to take down the country from within, from
Mhm.
these, dissociated children that are going through with an agenda that they, no fault of their own, or no consciously knowing they're doing. You look at these shootings, these school shootings,
Right.
or these mass shootings. Those are people that have been programmed to carry out those things, and they've
Right.
never had an opportunity to get free. They've never had an opportunity to not follow through with what, um, the plan that they were given. I
Right.
mean, for me, my programming was to infiltrate churches. Like I said, I have dissociated parts that would have to go in and either have sex with someone, or a dissociated part that would have to cause, a division of some way, not consciously doing that, not something that I was willfully doing that. I've, been told, they make you bond with other children, and we will kill them. We will torture them. We will do the most heinous things to them if you don't do what we ask you to do. So it's like a damned if you do, damned if you
Mhm.
don't, no good option. It was like, what is the lesser evil that you're
Right.
going to do? Um, and then, you know, it's a big strategic plan, um, that people that hate this country, that hate God, that are choosing to do these things. And I normally do not go into the deep stuff. Honestly, most people really can't really wrap their minds around it. And I understand. I have a lot more um, compassion, I guess, for people, um, than I used to. About 4 years ago, when Biden got um, voted in, or actually, it wasn't really voted in.
Right.
That's not reality. But
No.
he got placed in the presidency. I knew I really had a breakdown. I knew that there were going to be children, hundreds of thousands of children that were going to be killed or in slavery. And so it really literally crushed me. Um, but I guess what I want to say with that is that Jesus, the true Jesus, um, that died on the cross for us, that um, rose again so that we could have freedom. He he is truly the only way out of this. Like,
Mhm.
he is truly the only way to be completely free and to get the truth that you need to be able to combat the lies that they put
Mhm.
from early on. Um, and so that's what he's done for me, layer by layer by layer. You know, uh, they told me from the time I was born that I was evil. They told me that God hated me, and they told me that, um, you know, I was constantly doing evil things. So I was totally terrified of myself. I totally thought that I deserved what I was going through, and I thought they were doing me a service by controlling me. They were doing me a service by torturing me, raping me, all of these things. You know, I was born evil, and that's what God was using to keep me in line from continuing to do evil over and over again. So it's base level lies. It's those
Mhm.
lies, those deep root lies, and it doesn't change from whether it's MK Ultra or it's a person that has been abused. Um, Pain is pain, and lies are lies. Um, but I kind of give you a background for me. I was sent to a Christian ministry. Uh, Really, the most painful part of my story, because of choices that I made. Because I came to a place where I actually, for the first time in my life, was able to make choices. My brain was still being controlled by them, but I actually had an opportunity to make choices. So they sent me to a Christian ministry. They look for churches and ministries that are making headway in the spiritual realm. They can feel that because they
Mhm.
do a lot in the demonic realm, so they can determine that. They targeted a ministry that was making a huge advancement in helping people come out of SRA, out of MK Ultra, all the things that I've been through. So they sent me there under the disguise of I was supposed to get ministry from them. My traffickers took me to them um, ahead of time, and this shows you how detailed they are. Ahead of time, before they took me there, they took that ministry's uh, handbook, for how the Lord had kind of downloaded to them on how to minister to people that'd been through what I've been through. They took that and used it in ministry and in rituals. They used that
Mhm.
ministry in rituals to try to uh, torture me in such a way that I would not allow any healing. I would not allow God to do anything in my life. I would be switching to different parts of my mind, to different personalities that they had programmed me to. They actually had the voice of these amazing Christian people, the voices of them, because they actually sang and kind of traveled around and sang and stuff like that. So ahead of time, it was a huge foundational of not trusting these people. And then, of course, my entire life, there had not been any interaction with anybody that's ever loved me, that ever cared for me, that had ever done anything but rape and hurt me. So I went into that just thinking that these people were going to continue to do what had been done to me my whole life. So as they began, I want people to see like the power of genuine love and the power of genuine freedom and of who Jesus really is. So I went into that situation supposed to set up this couple. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that consciously.
Right.
But when I went into that, they began to pray for me, you know, for survivors. A main thing of a lot of it is dissociation and denial. So, like layer after layer after layer of denial and dissociation was coming up, and then Jesus would speak true to me and just heal me of those memories, just continually heal me over and over and over of those memories. It was very excruciating. I can't say that it was easy, but honestly, my mind was being completely renewed, and that years, decades of programming was being undone. So in that process, I I began to experience genuine love. Like, they gave me a place to live, they gave me a car, they gave me uh, um, food and a job and all the things that I needed to be safe. The whole time I was still getting trafficked by these people, and people so hard to understand. Why do you stay? Like, had so many people like, why do you stay? Like, why do you continue to do that? Because you don't know anything else. Like,
Right.
it's terrifying to think of anything else. They had terrified me to the point to I thought, if I was free, if I had any thoughts on my own, that I would be continually hurting people. I didn't want to hurt people. I wanted whatever it would take for me not to hurt people. So
Right.
I had that was my identity. That's who they taught me that I was. So that had to be undone. And so Jesus, like, layered at a time, undone, began to undo all of those lies and get me to a point to where, okay, we're at this thing, like, are you going to go through with this? Or are
Mhm.
you not going to go through with this? Well, three other people that were MK Ultra were actually sent at the same time to really take down this ministry. Um, and at this point, I don't think that they ever got free. I don't know, honestly. Um, so to kind of explain the depth of the terror that they put within you, um, they really had infiltrated a lot of, like, there was a judge in that town, there was police officers in that town, investigators in that town. They were involved in all of the programming and all the things that were going on. So I didn't know that there was a way out of this, but Jesus had done such like a profound, like, healing in my mind that I finally saw, oh my gosh, maybe I could be free. Like, maybe I'm not as evil as I think I am. Like, I don't want, because, in these rituals, they force you to do horrible things. Like, you have no choice. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, if there's a way out, like, I want it. But it took all of that retraining of my mind to help me to see who I am. And so I really ran and totally took everything that I had, which was not much, saved up a little bit of money, and really had no contact with people for quite some time. Um, the Lord kind of started strengthening me and helping me to see that, what, Hope, they can't control you anymore. Your mind is free. I try to correlate it to, like, slavery. before, like the African American slavery. It's real slavery. All of it's real
Mhm.
slavery. When they actually got an opportunity that, said, okay, you don't have a slave owner anymore. Like, you can be free. A lot of them didn't get free. And it was
Right.
because they had been told over and over and over, this is who you are. You
Hmm.
have to do this. So a lot of them continued in slavery. And it's hard for people to understand, but it's like the thinking that you have is so powerful. It really
Hmm.
is. And like Jesus wants to renew the thinking that we have, our mind, how it says in the word. But as I got stronger, the Lord, and I've never shared any of this, so whatever the Lord's doing here, but I I end up the Lord told me you need to go back. You need to go back and um, tell these, like, the love of a friend is stronger than life. Like, you need to go and tell these people that really they tortured you and they hurt you and they programmed you. You need to have it documented that you're saying that this Christian couple that chose with their heart, and I tell you, it was probably excruciating for them, that, okay, you know what? They did not hurt me. He did not rape me. He did not hurt me. He is not in on any of this. This Christian couple, all they did is help me. All they did is love me. And the love of Jesus through them to show me that they forgave me for following through with things that could have hurt them in a horrible way. It did something in me, and it gave me a strength, Jesus so strong in me to say, I will not stop fighting. I will use my life to share the truth of what is truly going on. Even if I get rejected by the church, even if I get rejected by patriots that don't understand that, you know, this is really real, I will continue to go forward. And the key is seeing who God is and seeing who I am. That is what unlocks the freedom. And it's going to take people truly being willing to step out and do what God asks them to do. It's just like you before we started,
I know.
doing the hard thing and saying, you know what, you guys are facilitating pedophiles. Like, you
Yeah.
are choosing to align yourself with pedophiles. Like,
Mhm.
it takes the hard thing, but it's totally worth it. There's a
Yes.
freedom that comes with that, and
Yes.
there is I'm trying to think of just a peace that comes with that,
Mhm.
because we are truly fulfilling the heart of the Father, Papa
That's
God. That's what He's shown me, through a kind of a spiritually adopted Papa, kind of shown me the who He is as a Papa. So
yeah.
I call Him Papa God, and He's at work, and I just pray that people's eyes are opened,
Mhm.
because it's going to take everybody,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, that's what I say too. I'm like, and I don't understand why people, it's like with children, they always talk about children being our future, but then this stuff takes place and it's like, and it's too hard for people to talk about and like accept. And so, like, I can't reconcile. It's like, so then don't say that they're our future if you're not willing to stand in the gap for them. It's like we're
Yes.
just allowing all this stuff to take place. I mean, for them to mutilate their bodies, like the things that's happening in schools and the sexualization, it's like you're literally setting them up for a predator. So So is that the future you want for us? And I just think about children suffering and just hearing your story. I'm sorry. I'm like,
No, I feel the same way. I feel like the Lord is really wanting to pour out a compassion for these children, a compassion for people that have gone through MK Ultra, through abuse, through whatever it might be, that we start having that compassionate heart of Jesus, because that really truly can drive you to do things that you're not capable of doing,
yes,
you know? Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Like without him, I mean, I feel like I can't do anything I'm doing. That's why I always ask him to speak through me, to just like use me as your vessel. Um, because I know I can't do it alone. I'm not, like, half the time when I'm speaking, I'll be like, what did I just say? I have no idea.
I know. That's definitely Jesus, because I don't remember what I said.
Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, and sometimes, granted, I cuss sometimes because I'm so frustrated. Like,
Oh, yeah.
especially when these people are doing these things. And the funny thing is like, I'll have like someone from a periodical, like, ask me questions because they want to do an article on my foul language. And I'm like, how about you look at what I'm saying and why I'm saying it, instead of just like acting like, oh my gosh, she's using the F word, and it's like, well, I feel like it's warranted.
I think Jesus is more concerned about children getting free than the word that you're saying. So
Yeah,
I
I
think you're
agree.
all right. We don't have
I
to
know,
do
and
it
that's why
perfectly, like we're
I
just
know.
humans. We're trying to do the best we can, and like we don't have to do it perfectly. We just do what we can, and he does the rest.
That's right. But that's why it's so important to talk about. And I'm just like, you're so inspiring to be able to share these things. And no, most people don't want to hear it, but it's like, if you're willing to watch a movie about it, then you should be willing to see the real life about it, because all that stuff, like you're saying, comes from real life. But it desensitizes people. That's why even if they like see a fight or something like violent happening, they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get out my phone and I'm going to,
Right.
videotape that, instead of like mitigating and being like, oh my gosh, stop, like, let's calm down or figure out a way to, find peace. Instead, it's just there. And that's where I feel like the mind control with the populace is taken over as well, because it's on a different level, but it still works. That's why they have to use fear to keep us like in a prison cell that doesn't even exist.
Absolutely. That's so true. I think I was just thinking while you were talking, like, um, even through like the phone and social media and stuff like that, like it can be used for good in a
Right.
huge way, but it also can kind of distance us from feeling the heart for someone else. Like for
Mhm.
me, like with this whole Epstein thing, I did a civil suit, a criminal suit. Of course, we know how that went. The compensation fund was completely set up by evil people. It got absolutely nothing. But it's not even about that. It's about that, okay, are we wanting to see the list so that we can just have more information, or we want to share it, or we want to get more likes or whatever? Or are we wanting the list? Or are we wanting the case to be reopened so that the people that were involved, which are still trafficking children,
Right.
torturing children, are actually held accountable? Like,
Yes.
what is our motivation? Having our motivation be more of, I see those children's hearts and they are in torment. Like, we've
Yes.
got to get this stuff out in the open. We've got to get these people off the streets. We've got to
Yes.
get these people out of the government, out of Hollywood, out of, all the different places that
Yeah.
they are.
Right. Like the church, like, the doctors, it's going to be lawyers, it's going to be anybody under the sun. I feel
Absolutely.
like people act like it's like, because, and I don't know, this probably could be from movies, but where there's this like stigma or this look of a pedophile,
Hmm.
right? Where it's like they look sick or whatever, the guy that was like, sexually assaulted me he looks like a pedophile. Like he totally does. But like these other people, they're going to be people you would never guess. They look, dressed up in suits. Very wealthy people that you would think would not even go down that trail. And so that it's easy to go, oh no, they wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like you're just looking for someone that looks particularly, of that, like whatever. And that's just not the way it is. So I think that's why it's such a hard thing for people to grasp as well, because they think, no, that's like an attorney. He wouldn't do that,
Yeah, that's a lot of it. I totally agree. Like even just listening to just having some statistics is nice because like Tim Tebow, he was talking about how um, the most prominent or the majority of the time it's white, Caucasian, middle-aged men that actually have high earning, jobs, very smart, all of those things. People that you wouldn't just look at and say, well, they're probably involved in trafficking children, but they are doing it, and they're next door, and they're, and I think the whole agenda of Illuminati and all that is kind of desensitize us on every level to where the true body of Christ, the true church, doesn't discern when evil is really active, like doesn't discern it on that spirit level, that what's really going on, which is going to take, it's going to take that for that, to all be uncovered.
Absolutely.
But also, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, I am very encouraged. I shared my story in the Senate, first term for President Trump, just pretty much about the forced abortions that happened to me, and kind of surface level trafficking portion of my story. But I was very grateful for the opportunity to do that. And in that moment, I really saw a kind of a vision of the Lord taking a sword. It was like a lion, like crushing the foundation of the evil that was going on, in those governmental places in Washington. Really, because President Trump can do a lot, but only God can crush that entirely. And
right.
I saw the Lord just really getting to the root and crushing that foundation of trafficking. And then, I really feel like through President Trump and through the different things that are going on now, I'm praying that really at the depth of it, a lot of what the Illuminati has been doing for, hundreds of years, all of the evil, that's why there's such a fight going on, in the spirit realm, because they're not going to go easily. They're not going to,
No, and that's what's, I think, for me to really grasp what was going on, I had to understand that this is Satan's playground and there is a spiritual side to it. And I think until you can accept that and bring that into your purview and have that relate to everything, then none of it really makes sense, and it's like very confusing. Why would people do that? And you just think, and why? Because a lot of people say, why would God do this? And he doesn't do it, but he allows it, but he always uses evil for good. And that's why it's like, it's so horrible that you went through that, but he brought you out of it, and then you can expose it. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, but if you hadn't gone through that, you wouldn't be able to do that. And
Absolutely.
So it's like, and it's weird for me too. That's why I'm like, I'm not glad that it happened, but at the same time I am, and I'm thankful because it leads me to where I am today, and it makes me who I am. And I know that it wasn't a punishment from him, but that he, again, uses evil for good, but he, you know, selects us for these missions, you know what I mean? And so it's like knowing that he's here by my side and guiding me through it, like that's the only way I can function and keep going forward despite all of the like chaos and the just evilness. But that's why I cling on to him and know, like, as long as I'm doing that, I have nothing to fear. Like, not at all. I'm not afraid of anything. I know that he will see me through. And it's like empowering to go up against these demons, I feel like, right? Like, I mean, because I was just calling into a meeting as we were coming, because they were talking about kids, and I felt compelled. I feel like it was a God thing, because he had me look at the agenda real quick, and I was like, crap, oh my gosh, they're talking about childcare? No way. So I'm so thankful that you gave me the grace with that. But, you know, it's like he'll lead me into those things. So it's like I just feel like I have to, you know, step into it when he's directing me there. But it's the only way out of this, the only way to shine light on it and to not be afraid and to know that he will work on the hearts and minds. We just have to plant the seeds, you know, because he's going to make it grow. He's the one that's going to help it flourish. And so, you know, I'm just wondering, like, you know, with whether or not Epstein is dead or not, I mean, did you feel like a sense of peace knowing that at all?
Well, you know, honestly, no, because I feel like there's a lot more behind this story. He may still be alive.
Right.
You know, there's so many high level people that were involved in it. I don't truly know, and I don't trust what we've been told about the whole
Mhm.
situation. And you know, they're continuing to do everything that they
Yeah.
were doing, which is so sad. And you know, kind of go back what you were saying. I think a lot of people don't go there because they are afraid. They're afraid maybe of being hurt, or they're
Mhm.
afraid of being rejected because people don't want to hear that, or don't want
Right.
to believe that, or, you know, there's a lot of fear behind it. And I just really, I guess I just want to specifically talk to the people that feel afraid of taking a stand against trafficking and sex slavery and all the different things, and you really feel like at the depth of your being that God's calling you to that, um, He will protect you. Like the Lord showed me that He put a wall of fire around me. I know that He is protecting me.
Mhm.
And even if anything ever happens, I'm going to be happier in heaven anyway.
Yes.
So, you know, like I don't, it's a win-win, really.
Yes.
It really, really is. And I'm not trying to downplay the fear, because I lived in fear for 31 years of my life, like every second of every day. Um, but it's no way to live. Like it's not actually living the life that Jesus wants us to live when
Right.
we're living in fear.
Right. Um, and I guess, like, you know, as we were talking about the list, do you would you ascertain, just with the way things are going, that because of who's involved, that that's why there's such a you know, they're gatekeeping this information from coming forward?
Yeah, you know, I do trust President Trump in the whole situation. I don't know the hearts of all the people, and I can't determine that. Only God can determine that.
Right.
But like we were talking about, there's so many high level people at really, you know, you know, like has been in the presidency, or all the different high level, you know, occupations and things like that. They have so many people kind of paid off to
Mhm.
do what they want them to do. I was kind of surprised that they even had any videos. I mean, I know for a fact that he videoed everything, like all of the torture, everything that was going on. Because they feel like that they get demonic power from that. It's like an
Right.
exposing and bringing it out into the open, but then nobody ever finding out about it. So I was kind of surprised that they even have videos. Um, but I guess the biggest frustration for me, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, is just that there's not more communication about it.
Hmm.
Especially if, victims and survivors are in those videos, it makes me frustrated, but I tell people, I'm like, you got to have grace for survivors because we've been like dealing with this for a very, very long time, and we're not questioning people. We're just saying, it's frustrating. It is very
Hmm.
frustrating. Um, the whole situation is very frustrating, but I choose to believe in the end, like God, he told me that he would bring justice. And whether it's on this earth or after this earth, I think the
Yes.
sole purpose is that he wants these kids rescued and wants them to stop being tortured and abused and raped and trafficked. That is the sole goal. And there are some people, I think, that some of it hasn't been revealed sometimes because it will cause detriment to some of the children. Maybe they'll be caught in the fire of all of it. But I know his heart is for justice, and it's a foundation of his throne. So
That's right.
yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm content, like knowing that if there is no justice here on earth, his justice will reign supreme and it will be greater and better than anything that we could do to punish them here. Um, and I hope that they would turn away from their wickedness so that the children stop suffering as well. Um, but I just don't know how I feel about justice coming here. But that's why it's like it's either way, it's going to happen. So I'm content,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what I write on. Do you think that justice has been served in Ghislaine's case?
I didn't have a lot of interaction with her. I've definitely heard other survivors talk about how cruel and evil thing she did was. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if she's how involved. I think mine was more under the surface. She was kind of in charge of all of the. For me, like when I would be sold and trafficked underground, like he would literally say, "Okay, if you perform good enough, like if you get enough people to buy you and you perform good enough, perfect enough, then there was like an elevator where you could go upstairs." And he'd be like, will be around you all the time because there was a lot of deprivation of human contact, which is very torturous, like to be left
Mhm.
alone for days and weeks, so you would try to do what, even it was things that you didn't want to do, you try to do them perfectly because, oh, I'll get to go upstairs, and
Right.
even though have to do this upstairs, I'll at least be around people,
Mhm.
at least we'll get to be in the normal everyday things, um, so I guess for me, I don't know. I think I got off track there. I'm sorry. I
No,
kind of
that's okay
veered.
because no, but that was an interesting. I'm glad you talked about that because I was asking about Ghislaine, but it's like, I mean, she can just stay where she's at.
Yeah, I do think, I think she was very involved and very at the root of the people that were being trafficked, kind of in the everyday life. I definitely think that without a doubt. I mean, she has Mossad connections. All
Mhm.
of it was connected with, it wasn't just Mossad, it was all governments. It's very,
Right.
um, very infiltrated with all of that. So I'm sure she um, hopefully will get the punishment that she deserves.
Mm-hmm. She will, I mean, be on this life, so that's good. Um,
Absolutely.
it's just crazy when I think of women doing it. I mean, it's just, but there are so many women that do, and it's embarrassment to be a woman in that realm. But as far as like your healing goes, was it? I mean, did meeting your husband also help with that? Like just being able to actually have somebody love you and unconditionally, and it wasn't like that. Was that kind of hard for you to um,
Yeah.
like transition into? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult. I didn't really know how to live with a person. Like, I had so much deprivation and false everything.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it took a lot. And we went through a very hard time. It was difficult, but, we're both committed to each other. We chose each other. Uh, we know that Papa God brought us together. Um, and so, love sometimes is just making a choice to stick it out with people no matter what. And I think a lot of it too, I mean, like he's definitely shown me a lot of love, like kind of pampered me like I've never been before and not expected to do something. But I think too, for me, what was really freeing is being able to love somebody the way that I love him, because you weren't really allowed to love somebody because it was very fearful because I might hurt them. And that's like, would be like getting your heart ripped out, because, so it was very fearful to even choose to love anybody. So that's been very freeing to be able to have somebody that I can pour out love, because
Hmm.
love really is what rescued me. I mean, Jesus is love, like
Yes.
100%. So I think that's been a huge help to me.
And like as far as other victims go, I mean, is it something that you're trying to help guide others to that same place and, show them how, you were able to be set free?
Yeah, I really feel like the Lord has called me to share my story just every opportunity that I could get so that somewhere somebody that is enslaved might see it, might plant a seed, it might provide an opportunity for somebody to choose to get trained to help people come out of that. I've worked a lot with Bride Ministries, Daniel Duvall, and he's constantly training new people to help people out of what I've gone through. And he's always been somebody that really believes the truth about it. So I've tried to partner with different places like that, and you know continue to share my story on panels with other survivors, because it really does. Like, I never realized it because a lot of their purpose is when you are being programmed is to not really um, cause you to really bond without a consequence
Right.
with another victim. And so for me, I was extremely fearful, even through probably up until the last like 4 years, I'd say, maybe in less than that. I was very afraid to connect with other MK Ultra survivors, afraid that we would trigger each other and something bad would happen because that's just always what happened before. And it was so excruciating. But the Lord has really shown me how freeing it is to hear someone else's story and to say, oh my gosh, I didn't know anybody else went through that. Like, that
Right.
verifies my story. Because there
Right.
was a point in my life, like all of these memories and all of these things are coming back and all these flashbacks. And I'm like, you kind of feel like you're going crazy. Like,
Hmm.
but it's very just confirming to hear somebody else say, oh, adrenochrome is real. Like I went through those rituals. Even if it's hard to kind of deal with it,
Right.
it's healing to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't feel like you're going crazy too. It's like,
Exactly.
because I know sometimes it's almost like it feels like it's a dream, that you're
Yes.
just, and so, and even like memories it's like, is that real? I mean, am I just, whatever.
No, that's
Now
so
I'm just
true.
not
I
making
mean,
it.
and they try to do that specifically,
Yeah.
with MK Ultra, they try to make you think it's a dream. So then it just, your
Right.
mind is just like, oh my gosh, I am crazy. They say I'm crazy.
Right.
I am crazy. And,
Right.
but you don't just have those things come to your mind. Like you don't make those
Right.
things. Like somebody had said the other day, they're like, well, it kind of makes you think that you just made it all up, and I'm like, wow, it would take a lot to come up with all of those details in your mind and all of the, like who can do that?
Right.
And why would they
Exactly.
want to do that?
I know. I think they might be able to, the ones doing all these things, like planning that out. Like that's the things they think about. Oh, how cool would that be? But anybody else, you're like, that why would you even want to go there with your mom? I mean, that's ridiculous. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
there's
like
no benefit.
re-torturing yourself. You're like
Exactly.
reliving through it. So why would you want to like just make that up to make yourself feel a certain way? And that's what's so crazy to me is like people would rather go to that extreme and be like, than really accept that it's actually reality, that this kind of stuff takes place and on a massive scale. That's what's so crazy to me is like I feel like I'm seeing it more. I don't know why, but it's just like I'm seeing Waldo everywhere. It's like before you're like, where's Waldo? And so you have to look, and then but now it's just like they're all Waldo or something like that. So for me, I'm just like it's mind blowing to me. Like every day, I'm just like, holy crap. I mean, I feel like there's more than there aren't, like people that engage in this kind of stuff. And so,
Absolutely.
and I never thought like that, but I feel like that's true. And that's what's so
Hmm.
crazy. But it's like evil has infiltrated this realm so
Hmm.
prevalently that if people don't acknowledge that, then they're not going to understand this kind of stuff and, be able to accept it as like a reality because it seems so far-fetched, like especially adrenochrome or even the Illuminati. They want to be like, that's a conspiracy theory, right? So that people just go, oh,
Right.
that doesn't happen. You're crazy. And it's like, I wish it
Exactly.
didn't.
Well, and if you even if you think about like people that have been abused, you can see them as a child being photographed with their abuser, and they look like, oh, they're having fun. But these people, they know how to do what they are doing. They know, I mean, they are in the spots that they are so that they can get away with what they're doing. Like
Hmm.
the people that trafficked me, my main traffickers made a video of the videos that they would take of me in the denial realm, like I would have to act out a normal Christmas, and then they would
Right.
rape me, or they would sell me, or they would torture me. I would have to act that out, and the whole purpose they do that is so that they could. There's people out there, they market that too. They want to see that. They want to see that they can control someone's mind to that extent. So just because you see a survivor or you know somebody that's been abused or MK Ultra or whatever, if you see them in a picture where they look, you think about Virginia, with her in the picture with Prince Andrew, like
Hmm.
it looks like, it was not fun. It was not good. It was completely evil. But you do what you have to do to survive, even if
Yes.
that's to pretend like what we're doing is okay, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's just the horrific part about it, but it allows people to go like, oh no, you enjoy it, you know what I mean, or
Hmm.
whatever. And um, that's why it's so I think also hard because I was even looking with when the judge didn't do anything in my case, and I thought, well, why would that happen? And then when I started looking back in the like early 80s and 90s, there was a lot of fake stories that were coming forward so that they could discredit people. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that also makes sense. And I'm like, I also believe that Judge Pry was a pedophile, but like, you know, it just makes more sense when you see like all of the games at play to try and then you got to wonder why are they trying to make it seem like it's not real? Because there's so much many involved that they have to keep the people just pacified and at bay, because otherwise, I mean, they're so terrified of the people. That's why I'm like, the people have to rise up and do something about this, especially for the children. If you believe children are our future, it's time to put an end to this. And have no fear, because Jesus is with us. But this is like, we need to part the Red Sea, you know what I mean? And go in and rescue these children, because like, I don't know how anybody, like, I can't just like go about my day and not think about it. Like, I can't just be like, okay, I'm going to go get in the hot tub and I'm going to go, you know, lay out in the sun and just do all these things. I'm like, my mind is constantly going, okay, what can I do next? Like I have a mission and I'm running out of time.
Yeah. Right.
And
you've made a commitment to God, to really intercede for these children and what you're doing.
And so I'm so thankful for you. So what, you know, like, so I know people can find your book on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And is there other ways people can reach out to you if they want it or find out more about you? Like, go to your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hope Beryl-Green.com, and they could send me a message on that, or if they, you know, wanted to do a interview or anything like that. I'm definitely always looking for opportunities to share the truth. That's what I'm here for. So
yeah, and I love it. And I mean, I could go on with you for a long time. I feel like you need to come back at some point.
I would love that. It's like a conversation here that I could do it all day until I get it.
I know. And like, I know you have to go here in a few minutes. So that's why I'm like, dang it, I wish I could keep you. But so I want to respect your time. I'm not just, I feel like I'm like kind of cutting you off and I'm like, no, I want to keep going. But like, what are some things that you would like, you know, like to share, you know, with anybody kind of going through it or a victim, some kind of inspiration, just some words to leave with, you know, our audience, and as far as whatever you'd like to say.
Well, I truly want to say that whether you're in a physical cage or a mental cage, Jesus truly is the answer. And that sounds like, oh, that it can't be that simple. And it's not simple, but he is simple. If you cry out to him, he will bring people, he will bring what you need. He will give you a way out. And it is possible. Most of all, you need to know that you are not trash. You are not evil. You do not deserve what you're going through, and you deserve life. Jesus died for you, rose again for you to have life, not to be in misery and torture and torment all the time. And there's people that will help you. Absolutely. It is possible to be free. I'm totally living proof that it is possible to be free, confident, expectation for good, hope. The people that rescued me, that was the name I ended up taking, is Hope. And there is hope for you, no matter how deep, dark the situation is.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so inspiring. And you know, I'd like to, and I kind of put you on the spot here. I was going to ask you when we got off, but maybe you would come out and speak with some other individuals that we could like to see the signs of trafficking, just to bring more light to it in the community. So I'd love to talk to you about that offline, because I feel like we need to be doing that, not just on places like this, but in communities where people can come out and really just, you know, start to understand and unpack what's going on, and figure out what the signs are that they may not be seeing exactly, and that, you know, there is something that they can do about it. And or even, you know, maybe victims will come in and try and find, you know, refuge or something like that, or, you know, just solace with it.
Absolutely. And you know, you know, I was just hearing, like, it's going to take an army. And you've got to think, okay, what if this was my child? What if this
Yeah.
was my sister? What if this was my brother? What is the closest person to you? What lengths would I go to for them?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what Jesus is willing to do. And we can just hold his hand and go with him.
That's right. And when we can't walk, he'll carry us. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And
That's a lot of times.
that's what's, I know. Half the time I'm like, thank you. Is your back tired? I'm just kidding. It's not like that would even be
I
possible,
totally
but
get it.
you know.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I look forward to having you back and just staying in touch, and we'll figure out something for you to come out and continue to share you with others. It's so important. And just God bless you
Bless you.
for,
Thank you so much. You're an inspiration too, and allowing people to share the
oh my
stories,
gosh,
You don't find that a
it's so
lot,
important.
unfortunately.
I know. Well, that's why I'm like, I don't understand it. So I'm like, get over here. Let's talk about this. Like, I want to talk
Right.
about all this stuff nobody wants to talk about. But
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm tired of just all this, the nonsense, the fluff. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to
Yeah.
get past that. You're wasting time. And that's the thing. I feel like it's a wasted time.
Right.
There
Exactly.
are children suffering right now. And so I feel like
Mhm.
every moment I waste is like a moment that they have to suffer. And if I can not like participate in their suffering, that's, what I'm
Absolutely.
trying not to
I
do.
totally agree.
So, oh my gosh, you're awesome, Hope. And we'll talk again soon. And thank you guys for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed that as much as possible and gave you some more insight. Join me next time where I bring you more truth, love, light, a little bit of darkness in between, and all of the good things. God bless you, Hope. God bless everybody. Thank you, guys.